Hello everyone and welcome to this playthrough for Pro in the Club Oceania Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go! You can see in the video description down below the direct links for the specific holes in the tournament. We're going to play with the Thor's Hammer level 5 here. We're going to give ourselves the distance when it comes to this particular shot when going with Titan. We do not need to use max overpower in general, as we will be most likely bouncing all over the green. So have in mind that when you're playing this hole, I would suggest using somewhere in between 3 to 5 bars of topspin, depending on the driver that you actually do have. We are going to go max overpower here, as we are not having the distance. If you're having a berserker ball, for example, or a power 4 ball, then I would suggest that you actually take a berserker ball in that case, so you're not finding yourself as far away on the green as we're doing now. The thing that you will have to see now is that we'll need to max overpower a pot to be able to get that eagle, and that is not something that we do want to find ourselves to do. So we need to remove some topspin. We need to kind of like think about maybe cutting the rough to roll out, as we're not having the distance, because we need to kind of mixture a little bit when it comes to this topspin, and also when it comes to the overpower. We rather want to use more overpower than we want to use like max topspin, but in the end sometimes we kind of need to go with both, especially when we do not have the club for it, because the clubs that we have to choose between is an X-Hammer level 6 or a Thor's Hammer level 5, and then okay, which one to choose. But like, look at this spot here, and this is going to be like very much too far. As you can see, just reaching there, and now it's basically just pure luck if we're going to hit great or we're going to hit perfect. Now, even though we hit it great just as tiny little bit, so we actually make that eagle. So that we will of course be very happy with, but we do want to find ourselves in a situation where we do not need to overpower our pot that much. Otherwise, if you do not feel confident on going over the island, you might not have the club for it, or like you don't have the balls for it. Not have the balls for it, that you don't have the guts for it. I mean that you don't have the golf balls to do so. Then lay up as our opponent is doing there, then you will have straight tailwind towards the pin. Hole number 2, and hole number 2 in my opinion is going to be an albatross hole, and it's going to definitely be a good albatross attempt at least. And the thing that we want to do is that we want to bounce over the rough and put ourselves on top of that fairway in the middle, as you will be able to see. Our opponent here is going to kind of mixture a little bit with the left side, and I don't think that is the right way to go, to be honest. I think that it's definitely the wrong way to go, and I kind of take that in, then that it's like having to max overpower, and then you need to really just like get side spin, and you need more curl to be able to bounce and stay nicely on the fairway. Otherwise you're most likely going to end up in the rough, as our opponent is doing now, and then it's going to be tough. We're going to do an easy drive, and I want to call it an easy drive as it actually is. We have the Thor's Hammer level 5, and this drive can be played with whatever driver you actually have. And have in mind that if you have a driver with more than 6-7 bars of topspin, take away topspin and go with 5 bars instead, because that will in every case put yourself over the rough, and it also will put yourself away from the rough on top of the next fairway. We're going to go with 4 rings with our adjustment with the Thor's Hammer level 5, slight amount of curl to the left, and we hit it perfect. And you will see the first bounce here is going to bounce ourselves over the rough, and we're going to roll up nicely there towards the rough on top. And now we're going to play with a long iron. You either play with a long iron in like minimum distance or like a medium distance, or you're going to play with a wood club in a minimum distance. You do not want to be in between clubs. If you do find yourself in between clubs after your drive, then you're going to have to play and bouncing on the fairway, as our opponent is doing here in this way. Even though he's having the Nirvana, it's so much easier, of course, to bounce with a regular club. But having to go on that fairway to bounce over to the green kind of limits the expectations of having an albatross, and then I would consider this one to be an eagle hole. But if we can go for the rough bump, which we can now, then we're definitely going to have a good opportunity for an albatross. And if we are just spot on with our adjustment in the rough, then we are going to be very close, if so dropping it. So okay, we're going to go, as you can see, the Goliath. As you can see, we are in medium distance, a little bit more than medium distance here, as we are very close to maximum distance of our club. We're not going to go with max topspin. We're going to go with almost. We're going to use the ball guide line that we do have on our Goliath level 6. From this distance, we kind of need to under adjust it a little bit. I do decide to go with medium numbers, and now we are going to go with 2.2 rings. And according to our guide, we should be going like 2.5, and in this case we kind of need to go with a little bit less, as we're going to miss it on the right side as well, and also coming in a bit short. But you could see there, even though we weren't spot on with our adjustment, we definitely went close enough to feel good about it to go into the opening round with that adjustment in the bag. So we kind of need to, if we are in medium distance, then I would suggest that you take away 0.3 to 0.5 rings for the adjustment, and that goes the same for being in max distance, and that goes the same for being in minimum distance of your club as well. So it's time to go for hole number 3 now, and we, as you can see, we took the eagle. I'm okay with that on hole 2. It's like on a par 5, it's very tough to kind of order. It's very tough to order, like, you know, an albatross, and that is not something that we will in many cases do. But in the end, we give ourselves the attempt to do so. And I think that is definitely the best way to play the hole. So now we're going to go to hole number 3, and hole number 3 is going to be a par 3, and that par 3 is going to be played with a sniper, and that sniper is going to be a sniper level 9, and that sniper level 9 is going to give us the ball guideline that we're actually looking for. This is a very tough hole to drop, like for a hole in one, but in the end we're definitely going to feel good about getting it to the green and not getting too short, not getting too long, and stopping there for an easy birdie. And again, this is a birdie hole in my opinion, and you should first and foremost have in mind that if you want to play with wood club and not being in between clubs, then I suggest that you take down a notch and go with a navigator instead, or you reduce the power of the ball that you're having, which is like that we are doing, from power 3 with a Titan to a power 1 with a navigator. So, and we're going to adjust this one for 6.5 rings. Even though we are in minimum distance of our club, we're going to adjust the shot for being in maximum distance. This shot and this ball is going to be affected more by the wind as we're playing downhill. You can see we're coming in kind of nicely, a little bit too hot maybe, but in the end we are close enough to make an easy birdie for us on hole number 3. Our opponent here is going to go with another shot, and it's like, if you do have the guardian, you can definitely try to play in that hole there on top. And I'm not saying it's a bad way, but in the end it's definitely going to be riskier, as you're going to have a more like strange bounce. You can get a bounce if you just are slightly off with your adjustment. You can get a bounce that bounce out to the left way out, and or out to the right way out as well. So we need to try to stay away from that, and that is the reason we are using the front tip of that fairway instead of trying to bounce as our opponent is doing. Look at the ball guideline, the inconsistency for just being a little bit off with the adjustment. So we're going to see here how it actually goes. get it to bounce there, get a good bounce, but then get a little bit too much rolled when it comes to the fringe there. And sure, the putt is not going to be a problem, and here in the end, it's on hole number 3, is to find a consistent way for yourself to stay away from getting into the bunker and take that birdie. If you make it to drop 4 on hole 1, then you should be very, very happy, but that is not something that's going to be happen that frequently, so have that in mind when playing hole number 3. So now it's big topper time! Big topper time here for hole number 4, and you can play this type of shot with every type of big topper actually, and the reason we're using big topper, yeah, that is because of the topspin. We do have 7.7 in some tailwind with a berserker when we do want to have a berserker. I think in this case that you need to have at least a power 4 ball to be able to reach where we want to go. Sure, with a topspin then we should be able to bounce over nonetheless, but especially if you're having a lower level big topper like level 2, level 3, then you definitely need to have a berserker ball with some more distance. We have the big topper level 5, and as you can see, we're reaching easily over there, over the fairway. We are a bit unlucky, but also we hit it great on the right side and go into the rough. And this particular shot from the fairway is definitely a shot where we have a good opportunity to make an albatross, and that is the thing that you, of course, you're risking a bit while bouncing on the island there, but in the end you need to rely on your overpowering skills. If you do not want to bounce on the island, or if you, like for an example this time, our opponent is having a basic ball and just an X-Mile level 6, which would just be very unlogic to try to play on the island because he's not going to reach over. Then you need to either try this side to play like full blast down the middle here on the left side, or you need to try to play it so you can stay on the island instead. So finding yourself in this position, like in the rough, that is going to be basically a bit game over when it comes to making an eagle putt at least. Okay, so now we're going to be in the rough here. We're going to extend the ball guide line by using topspin and also some side spin to the right. We kind of want to rely on the ball guide line here, but as you can see, we're kind of playing. The wedge shot on this hole is definitely way much, it's different than playing from the rough. Here we do have a kind of a low ball guide line, and even though we are not putting that much, we're definitely putting too much, as we're just going to miss it even though we hit it perfect. But in the end, that is something that we'll have to improve when it comes to the rough play. But the thing to focus about there is to use a club with a good amount of topspin. If you do have a Thor's Hammer level 6, level 7, which would be weird in my opinion if you do play pro, but in the end then you can try to play on that island as well with that topspin that you do have with the Thor's Hammer. Then you might not need to use that much overpower as we did with the Berserker, but with the big topper, it's definitely a club you most likely have unlocked, and it will be in some level all in between, like level 1 and level 5, and therefore I should big topper here, give myself the opportunity to get close to the green. If I am a bit lucky or have a strong wind and might going to reach for the green in 1, that would be epic. So our opponent here is going to, as you can see, not being able to reach, and if you're going to play on the left side, definitely make sure that you're staying on the fairway, otherwise again it's basically going to be game over for the eagle itself, as this shot here from distance is going to be very tough. So there we go, and hole number 4 is like, hole number 1 is a must eagle in my opinion. If we take just these 4 holes that we have been playing so far, it's a must eagle. Hole number 2 is definitely a must eagle, but a good opportunity for an albatross. Hole number 3, it's a birdie hole. Take that birdie, be happy. And if you and then when you're playing hole number 4, it's definitely a good chance if you do go for the play that I'm suggesting here. Then we do have a good chance for an albatross, and an albatross in opening round or in the weekend round is definitely going to help out big time. So, hole number 5. Hole number 5 is going to be a par 3. And we're going to play with a long iron. And this is definitely a hole where we could make it drop. First and foremost, we need to have in mind that if we go coming in too hot, we're going to fall back down and have a pot that we have to overpower. And that we will need to stay away from. Our opponent's going to use a little bit more than 4 bars of backspin, and I think that is the wrong type of spin to use. The reason I think that is because we do have headwind. I think with headwind we need to go with 3 bars of backspin. With tailwind, then we need to go with like 4 bars of backspin. And as you can see here, it's stopping short, and still going to be an easy pot for the birdie though. You're going to see type of a similar approach from my end here, and you will see me playing with a kingmaker here to just reduce the wind to the max, and we're going to be in basically like min plus distance, not much more than that. So we're going to go with 3 bars of backspin, and we are going to adjust. So we do want to have the second bounce on the fringe. We do want in the end here to make the adjustment a little bit closer to the rough. We're going to adjust for 2 rings, so we're going to over adjust this one. We're not going to go according to the ball guide, according to the ring guide, as we're going to be playing downhill. So we need to add a little bit here, but as you can see, we're going very short. Not very short, but we're going short as well. So we need to add even more. So I'd suggest that when it comes to this particular adjustment, when we're playing downhill, go and play this shot as you would be in medium distance. Use those numbers, then you will be fine. As you're going to, especially with the kingmaker, going to play in minimum distance, then go with medium distance. That will sail nicely towards the pin. Hole number 6, it's time for, and hole number 6 is also a good opportunity to make an eagle. I have so many opportunities in this tournament that it's almost like where to start. But we're going to start with hole number 6 just in a tiny little bit. And as I said in the beginning as well, check out the video description down below, and you will be able to see direct links to the specific holes. If you do want to okay, I do know how to play hole 4, then you don't need to watch it, and just press there down below, and you don't have to look for it there. Max side spin, and we're going to go with a little bit more than 4 bars, so 4.5 bar of top spin as well. We do have headwind, so we kind of want to reduce the distance a little bit. We, instead of having to start our adjustment in max overpower, then we reduce it just a tiny little bit to look at the ball guideline, will it be enough, and then we can kind of adjust from that position. So as you can see, we will have to overpower just a tiny little bit, and then we're going to go with some curl to the left as well. Not that much curl, but it's more important for us to hit this ball perfect. Now we're going to stay kind of short, but on the left side, and it's going to give us a very good chance for the eagle. The reason we're going on the left side here is due to the wind that we're having. It's like the wind that you do get here on this hole, the sides from which position you want to play your second shot. Now when we're having headwind and also like some south, what will that be, like southeast a little bit, like as you can see here on the screen, then we do want to play on the left side, as we're going to basically have straight tailwind, straight headwind going towards the pin. Some slight side window to the left, but in the end it's going to be a good opportunity for us to make that eagle from distance. And if we just are accurate enough with our long iron, then we're going to be fine. Thing to stay away from here is of course the rough, like this. That is going to be a problem for you, especially if you're having a marlin ball to reach for the green from this distance. And also to go too straight. It's like if you do get too close to the trees there in the middle, then you will not be able to play besides them, then you will need to curl around them, and that is not something that we do want. We're going to go with 1 bar of topspin here. It's not needed to get to be more. We're going to use the yellow ring to be like the end of the yellow ring on top there is going to just cut in the rough. 5.1, and we're going to be in minimum distance of our club, and we're going to adjust it according to the ring guide. So you do adjust your long iron for being in minimum distance. So 1. I'm gonna focus on hole number 7. Hole number 7 is a par 3. And a par 3 that I will say like, birdie hole. This is a hole where you can play doing the rough bump, and you can play bouncing on the island, sorry, not the island, but you can play bouncing on the fairway just before the green. But and that is the thing that we are going to do first and foremost. But in the end, I do not like the rough bump that much anymore on this hole, as it has been very inconsistent. If you just are slightly off with your adjustment, and all of us are, doesn't matter if you played the game for 1.5 years or if you played it for 1 week, all of us will be off with our adjustment some point. Then we don't want to get punished that hard for being that. So we get a good roll here actually, even though we come in a bit too hot. But in the end, a Thor's hammer here with a good amount of backspin. The rocket works perfectly here as well. A maxed out quarterback works as well. You are going to be adjusting your driver, especially if you're using a power 3 ball. Then you're going to be in minimum distance of your club, and going to have to adjust it for being in medium distance. So you're basically adjusting for the same type of shot, but you're going to just step it up a notch and take medium numbers instead of minimum numbers while adjusting here. The reason we do that is because of the elevation. We're playing downhill and also over water, which means that the ball is going to be affected more by the wind. Percentage wise, add 10 to 15% on your adjustment. And if you do want to go for the rough bump, then you go with 2 bars of backspin in the rough, and try to get that second bounce on the fringe. If you have the cutoff just over the fringe, then your ball in some of the cases will take that extra push that no one of us want. So hole number 8, and we're going to go and take a look of another eagle opportunity. And here, as well as you most likely have seen some shots in the community, then you can go for the green in 1, but then you need to have the club for it, and you need to have the ball for it as well. If you do have a berserker, sure, and if you do have some more tailwind, then sure. Now we're going to have basically straight side wind, as you can see on our opponent's shot, and that you're going to see the same type of stuff when it comes to our shot. And then we're going to actually lay up, because I do believe, as you can see in the playthrough for expert as well, that a layup here is not going to hurt you. It's definitely going to be a good opportunity for an eagle itself. And the thing that we want to stay away from is, of course, the risk of going into the water. I do not say that you shouldn't risk it if you do have the club and the ball for it, but you will need to have in mind that there is a big risk if you miss and you go too much to the left, trying to overpower on the left side. Then you're gonna go into the water and going out of bounds. We are going to go with a navigator. We do not need more. Sure, you could go with a ball with a little bit more side spin. So a katana maybe could be perfect in this suggestion, but we're using this tutorial, we're using a navigator, and 7.5, we're going to adjust it as we would be in max distance, and we're going to add just a tiny little bit. So we went with 3.6, 3.7 rings for our adjustment, and we're going to let the ball bounce and use topspin there. Do not use too much topspin. It is enough with 3 to 4 bars of topspin. it looks like we are a little bit more than medium distance here, but we are going to choose those numbers to adjust for. 1 bar of backspin. We do want to bounce the ball on the fairway, so we do have the red ring just cutting the fringe there on top. Going to adjust as well. We're going to go here, as you can see, 2.2 rings, 2.1, 2.2 rings with the thorn. And as I said, medium numbers. And the reason we want to bounce there on the fairway, to get a flat bounce, a very much consistent bounce, and getting it straight in for an eagle. That makes me happy to see, and as we dropped it in Pro and Expert, and that shot works perfectly, I might just going to stay with that approach actually. Because in the end, if you just reach into that little that spot up there to the right, then you're going to be in medium distance with your thorn, or like with your hornet or your falcon, and then you're having a good chance. Now you can see me actually playing with my main account. That was because I didn't have any other account to be able to play to do the playthrough with when it comes to my account. But I didn't qualify, didn't forfeit every single hole. I'm going to go with the quarterback here. A bit hard to drive with the quarterback, but it allows me to do to have curl. If you do have a club with a good amount of curl, I would say over 60 in curl, then you can definitely play the same type of shot there. We did use a katana as well to go in max side spin, 3 bars of top spin, to try to go as much to the left side as possible. The thing to have in mind here is that we're playing downhill. You need to adjust your drive 10% more than normal adjustment. As you can see there, we were in max system. We also had the overpower, so we needed to add maybe 15% of our adjustment, as we when overpower, you do stretch out your club even longer, and therefore you're going to have more like travel time for the ball, and therefore it's going to be affected a little bit more by the wind than it already is. Our opponent's going to go right side here, and the right side is definitely playable, and then you just like play yourself up and try to stay there on the fairway. Then you're going to have an open shot towards the green. And now, as you see here, we are going to play on the island here. Even though we have crosswind, I kind of like this play, as the bounce here is consistent enough for us to get it close to the pin. Don't be alarmed of us being close to the rough there, as we are going to, if we cut the rough, we're going to roll out, have an easy wedge. We need to use a tiny bit of backspin, as we're going to otherwise coming too hot. And now we're going to be in basically minimum distance of our club, and we're going to adjust from minimum distance of our Goliath level 8, 3 rings. We hit it perfect, and we'll let it bounce, and as you can see, just bouncing up there and rolling, getting close for an albatross on hole number 9. That might be a different approach than you thought that I'm going to go with, but I definitely see that to be a good consistent bounce. Have in mind, you don't have to use a quarterback if you're having another club that allows you to use more curl from the start, like an Apocalypse level 2, 3, 4, 5 will help out big time in that way. Stay away from using too much topspin, and also too much topspin, so use with just 3 bars. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for watching this playthrough for Pro. If you do have any questions, please speak up in the comment section below. And here in the end, I want to wish you the best of luck in the Club Oceania Tournament, and the video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic.